Welcome to Salem Witch House Daily for Friday, July 22nd, 1692. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
This is Sarah Jack. Yesterday we focused on the examination of Anne Foster and the two Mary Laceys. Today, the Laceys are joined in an examination by those they accused, Richard and Andrew Carrier.
Also today, Salem's Justices of the Peace issued a warrant for the arrest of Martha Emerson, the daughter of Roger and Mary Toothaker. She was accused of hurting Mary Warren, Mary Lacy Jr., and others. The warrant instructed the constable to make diligent search of Martha's home and yard for any images or poppets.
Constable William Sterling wrote in his officer's return that he seized Martha Emerson in Haverhill today and brought her to the justices.
Now, Richard and Andrew Carrier were brought into the court for the examination. Initially, they denied everything. Andrew was recorded as stuttering during this time, which people in the audience said was unusual for him. Probably he was just nervous. I mean, who wouldn't
Scared
be
out of his
in the
mind.
court? He's 14 years old and he's thrown into court for witchcraft. And the afflicted people said they saw the devil, Martha Carrier, and others stand on the table to hinder Richard and Andrew's confessions.
Mary Lacy Jr. was present in the room. The justices asked her several questions. She told them that Richard Carrier went to Timothy Swan's house in person, but left his body and spectrally entered the home where he burned Timothy Swan in his bedroom. Martha Carrier, Anne Foster, and Mary Lacy Sr. assisted.
Sometimes, Mary Jr. said, they afflicted in person and other times in spirit. The devil encouraged them to kill Timothy Swan by stabbing him to death. So they stabbed his likeness with pins. And Richard Carrier rammed a spindle through Swan's knee. They hurt Swan because Mary Bradbury had a grievance with him. Mary Jr. said the disagreement had to do with the thatching of a house.
Under questioning and pressure from her own daughter, Mary Lacy Jr. admitted she had gone to hurt Swan with the group Mary Jr. mentioned. According to Mary Sr., the devil and his imps held the pipe that burned Timothy Swan.
So here's the story changing from what we heard yesterday, that Martha Carrier was holding the pipe. So now it's the devil and his imps. It was Richard Carrier at one point, and it's been Martha Carrier, and it's been the devil and his imps. So Richard was bombarded with a barrage of new questions, but still maintained his innocence.
Mary Lacy Jr. said Richard Carrier had afflicted Elizabeth Ballard about 2 weeks ago by pinching, choking, and laying his hand on her stomach.
Mary Warren had a fit and blood dripped from her mouth. Mary Lacy Jr. blamed this on Andrew Carrier. Now all the afflicted persons were grievously tormented.
Authorities carried Richard and Andrew Carrier and, according to the record of the examination, had their feet and hands bound a little while. But according to a petition written by John Proctor from jail on July 23rd, the brothers were bound neck and heels until blood was about to start pouring from their noses.
Richard Carrier was brought back into the court after this. A justice said, "Richard, though you have been very obstinate, yet tell us how long ago it is since you were taken in the snare."
Now Richard answered, "A year. He saw the shape of a man one night on his way home. The man was black and had a high-crowned hat. The man asked Richard why he was afraid to go home and that he would walk with Richard for a while. The man urged Richard to serve him, offering him new clothes and a new horse. He told Richard that he was Christ and Richard must believe him. Richard signed the devil's book, which was small and red. He wrote with a stick, which made a red color on the page."
The second time Richard Carrier met the devil, he told the court Satan came as a yellow bird and told him that he would shortly fulfill his promises and Richard would soon do service about the children and afflicted persons. Richard gave the devil permission to use his shape to afflict Timothy Swan and Elizabeth Ballard.
In addition, Richard said he also afflicted by squeezing anything between his hands and imagining it was the person he targeted. The devil had given him 2 rides to Salem Village with Mary Lacy Jr. Once the devil was a horse, and the other time he was a man. He carried them on a pole. This sat on the horse's back and rested on the shoulders of the man.
There were about 70 witches at the meetings, which took place in Samuel Parris's meadow. A few of the participants were men. Sarah Good had spoken of a minister or two in their ranks. One was George Burroughs, who Richard described as a little man.
Richard also confessed to hurting Swan in his spirit with the iron spindle. He hurt James Fry's child by squeezing its likeness, which could be any object he desired to use.
Richard said he'd seen his mother twice since she was imprisoned, once in her spirit and once as a cat. He was there when Andrew Carrier, his brother, signed the Devil's Book.
Richard and Mary Jr. told the court about the devil's plan to set himself up upon the throne of his own kingdom after he and his witches had overthrown the godly churches of New England.
The Toothaches had been at the witch meetings, Roger, Mary, and their daughter. But John Willard, John Proctor, Elizabeth Proctor, Rebecca Nurse, Giles Corey, Martha Corey, Elizabeth Howe, Mary Bradbury, Bridget Bishop, and others had been at the meeting. Richard said that John Willard is a black-haired man of a middle stature.
Mary Lacey Jr. had a bad fit, and Richard said he saw her being afflicted by John Buss, a minister who preached in northern New England, who happened to be Mary Bradbury's son-in-law, husband of her daughter Elizabeth.
Richard Carrier said he had afflicted 3 people in Salem Village. 2 were in the minister's house, Elizabeth Parris Sr. and Abigail Williams. The other person from Salem Village was Mary Walcott, who he afflicted last Wednesday by rolling up a handkerchief and imagining it was her.
Richard admitted he was baptized in Falls River at Newberry Falls. The devil dipped his head in the water. After he'd confessed, Richard could shake the afflicted people's hands without hurting them. He asked for their forgiveness.
And then Andrew Carrier was brought back into the court, and Richard told him that he had confessed to everything. Under questioning by the court, Andrew said he had signed with Satan for a term of 5 years' service, and the devil was going to give him a house and land in Andover. He said he signed the devil's book without even knowing that he was signing something for the devil. He didn't know who the man was who had asked him to sign, and this had happened in the night by Deacon James Fry's house in the orchard which Richard owned.
The devil told him he must serve him, keep his counsel, and afflict persons sometimes. He hurt James Fry's child a little, but nobody else.
Mary Lacey Jr. said the devil baptized Andrew this month in the Shoshan River, and Andrew agreed. Richard Carrier said he drank the wine at the witch meeting but did not eat the bread. Rebecca Nurse had handed out the bread, which he said was red, not brown like Mary Lacey had said. It was red like the wine.
It's recorded that Richard never confessed anything about the paper from the devil that his mother had supposedly given to him.
According to Richard, Mrs. Bradbury was mad at Timothy Swan because he'd had a disagreement with her husband over a scythe. So not about thatching a roof. Richard said there were only about a dozen witches at the meeting, and Sarah Wilds was one of them.
So they're talking about the hanged witches at this point. They're still talking.
They're still talking about them being, and it's good that they're talking about people who've already been hanged, I think, instead of talking about new people who have not.
Yeah, very good point. At another point in this interview, Richard said they'd met on the minister's pasture and came in at least 2 companies, which included a few men. After the interview, the suspects were taken back to Salem's jail.
And we get to close today on a hopeful note. Today, Mary Bradbury's friends and neighbors submitted a petition in her defense. This petition was signed by 115 people. They testified, quote, that it was such as became the gospel. She was a lover of the ministry in all appearance and a diligent attender upon God's holy ordinances, being of a courteous and a peaceable disposition and carriage.
It continued, neither did any of us, some of whom have lived in the town with her above 50 years, ever hear or know that she ever had any difference or falling out with any of her neighbors, man, woman, or child, but was always ready and willing to do for them what lay in her power night and day, though with hazard of her health or other danger. What a remarkable petition. They're like saying there's no chance she's a witch. And
This
there's more
statement-
signers than the number of witches that the Laceys referred to, like 100. There's more.
Yeah, there's more people
petitioners.
saying that Mary's not a witch than there are saying that she is a witch by far. So that's good. And I like that they talk about, it was so well known in the town, it became the gospel that she loved the ministry and she attended upon God's holy ordinances. And I love the part that says that she was willing to do anything for her neighbors night and day, even if it was dangerous to her. So what a remarkable woman she sounds like.